Hi guys, welcome to the show. My name is Seb Ostrovich, aka the Voice of the People, and this is the Weightlifting House podcast. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Weightlifting House podcast with your host Seb Ostrovich, the Voice of the People, not joined this time by the People's Coach, but joined by probably the entrepreneur of the weightlifting world, the CEO of Caffeine Kilos, the one and only Danny Lehr. Danny, how are you doing?
Man, I'm doing fantastic, Seb. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now it's 6 a.m. in the morning over there. It's like 2 p.m. here, so I've been able to get on and do some stuff in my day, but you're up early, and before we started recording, you said that you've actually been up for a while, which strikes me as amazing. Now tell me, why is it that you get up so early in your day?
Well, one thing, the truth is, I actually just like mornings. Like, I've always kind of been a morning person, and so I actually credit that a little bit. I mean, everybody, who knows, everyone has, whatever they like, different proclivities, but when I was a kid, my dad used to take me backpacking quite a bit.
Right.
And so I just remember, like, sun's up, you're up, and it's hey, we're burning daylight. You know what I mean? Like, we got 8 miles to go today, and that's what we're doing. And so it's kind of, you get up and you get going. And so I think that I kind of learned from that. And same thing, you'd take me up skiing a lot when I was a kid. It's like, you're out of the house at 5 a.m. because you got to get up to the mountains,
Yeah, of course.
And so I've always kind of been a little bit of a go-getter. And man, I got to be honest, whenever I hear someone talk about how they like sleep, I just don't understand it. Like, to be honest, I fucking hate sleep, man. Like, you know how much stuff I could be doing if I wasn't laying in a bed for 7 to 8 hours a night.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I get up every morning, not super early, but like 4:45.
Right.
And so I have some time to kind of basically get some stuff done when nobody else is awake or nobody's bothering me anyway.
Well, I imagine that getting up early kind of lends itself to being a productive person, and certainly if you're building a career out of something that you love, the more time you're awake, the more time you can hustle, the more time you have to actually create this thing that you want to do.
And what I really like doing in those mornings, because I have a couple kids and I'm married, and so just it's little things like educating myself and reading, and it's like it's so important. In fact, somebody asked me the other day, I was getting a haircut, and the barber was kind of talking. He's like, "Hey man, like, do you have any advice for someone who's just kind of like starting in business and wants to do more?" And the first thing I said, I was like, "Dude, like, you got to read. You know what I mean? Like, you got to like just start reading. And like, I don't care if it's like 2 pages a day or 1 page a day or whatever, but it's like you got to start reading, because I mean, it's funny. It's like all those sayings that just repeat themselves. Like, you only know what you know.
Yeah.
It is what it is. You only know what you know. But it's totally true. You only know what you know, and the only way to learn more is either talk to people and just you have to make an effort to educate yourself.
Yeah.
So that's my whole thing, man. I just like getting up in the morning. I like to take an hour or more if I can. Yeah. And read.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Once the kids are up, sitting in the chair doesn't really work that well.
No, I can imagine not. No, you can't really read at breakfast when the kids are up.
No, exactly. Or when my daughter's taking an hour to put on her underwear, it's hard to read. Constantly trying to encourage her. Yeah.
I tell you what, before I kind of go into that about reading, I must say it is so nice to talk to someone who wants to talk as much as I do. It's so great. I'm the kind of person who, I mean, that's probably one of the reasons I decided to do a podcast, but I love talking, and when I talk to people, I try and interview them. There's nothing better, as you well know, because you now have a podcast as well. There's nothing better than having guests who actually, passionately enjoy talking about what they're doing. And so I just thought I'd mention that before I carried on. But it's great to have someone who loves to talk. So
yeah, man, I'm really bad at games where I have to give yes or no answers.
Yeah, well, we won't do any of those today. So I mean, it's interesting that you say about reading, because I was talking about this actually just yesterday. Is how I tend to take in most of my information. I take in much better when I listen to it, which is why I immediately got into podcasts right when they began, like 7-8 years ago. And recently I've then found audiobooks. So I've been downloading audiobooks because, I mean, I love the whole passive learning rather than sitting down and spending time where if I'm reading, all I can do is read. So, I can passively consume interesting books on training or politics or education or anything really as I drive, as I cook. Do you think that there's something that's more beneficial about just sitting down, blocking out everything, and you're just reading, or is it more about, just taking in information regardless of the medium?
Honestly, everybody learns differently, and I know that, and I know that's a thing. In fact, I was a teacher for like 8 years. I have a degree in education. Yeah, so I have a degree in education, the whole thing. But I just think that, okay, say everyone learns different ways, but say you're learning by listening.
Right.
If you are listening while you're cooking, I mean, you're not really listening. Like, it's background noise. And don't get me wrong, you're definitely picking some stuff up, and that's a hell of a lot better than not doing anything at all.
So I don't
want to get that. I don't want to get that twisted, like you're wasting your time, because that's definitely not the case. But it's like, even driving, like, how many times, because I know, are you driving, you're listening to something, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I don't even know what they've been talking about the last 5 minutes, And
that's
like,
true, yeah.
And it actually happens when I'm reading sometimes too. All of a sudden I'll be like, what the fuck happened the last 2 pages?
I was just going to say that.
But I will say that when you're sitting there and you're sitting there to read, and that's what you're doing, and you're a little more focused, it happens much less frequently, at least if you're interested in what you're reading. Whereas when you're driving, there's stuff going on. A car drives by you that has, a funny bumper sticker, or, you know what I mean? There's a rope, or whatever, there's stuff. I mean, hopefully you're paying attention when you're driving,
I try my best,
So, there's that. And then, but if say you are a better audio learner, that's fine, obviously, right? But then maybe the thing to do would be to find some time where that's what you're doing. You know what I mean? Where it's the goal isn't to be doing 7 things at once.
Yeah, for sure.
So what I've listened to audiobooks sometimes, but me personally, I feel like I don't take as much in when I'm listening to audiobook, because when I'm doing that, I usually am doing other things. I'm driving, I'm doing whatever. Something strikes me as like, oh shit, like something stands out to me. When I'm reading, a lot of times, I either, you take a note in the book, or I actually have a little notebook every now and then. I'll write down different things if something pops out to me. When you're, listening to audiobook, you never do that. Or I never do. I think most people don't, because you're busy doing other things. You don't have time to stop, take a note, whatever. So if you're doing it in an environment where you have the opportunity to kind of like stop, make a note of something or whatever, then that's a little different. But man, I really think that I think that both are really important. So like what I do, I try to read books, but then I listen to podcasts.
Right. Okay.
Because there's so much information on podcasts, and if you're listening to a certain person's podcast, the simple fact is, if they're pumping out an hour a week or more, you're probably going to get the same information on multiple shows.
Yeah, you get that a lot. Yeah. I've noticed that with some. You listen to them and you love them for a month or two, and then before you know it, you're like, I've heard this before. Like, this is just the same stuff over and over again. Yeah. So if you if you miss 5 or 10 minutes because you're distracted, you'll probably pick it up on the flip side. Yeah. I think between books and audio as well, it's kind of quality versus quantity. I mean, I can take in a vast body of work in if I'm just listening to audio as I go through my day. But like you said, I mean, I'll find that I'm doing some Instagram posting, and I'm eating, and I'm writing some notes, and I'm listening to a podcast all at once. And it's like, I'm just doing so many things. I'm probably not giving enough attention to any one thing. Which actually kind of leads me into a good kind of question, is how do you go about that? Because I'm at that point now with Weightlifting House where it's like I have non-stop things to do. I make a list every morning of 20, 30 things, and I start one, but then I get halfway through and I think about the next and I go on. And trying to order it is just, I mean, it's more difficult almost than actually doing the jobs themselves.
Oh, for sure. Well, I'll tell you right now, and I'm just going to say, anyway, whatever. That's where you're making a mistake right there.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And without sounding like I don't want to sound like I know everything. That is definitely not the case. I was saying that, in my opinion, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So like that list of 20 or 30 things, you're just overwhelmed. You're not going to get it through most of it. And then let me tell you, even if you you can have a list of 30 things, you knock off 17, you feel like a fucking failure. You did 17 things. Like, what do you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's just the shit you wrote down. We all know.
And there's other stuff.
There's always other stuff. You know what I mean? Something's an emergency, or something's going on, or maybe it's something in your personal life, or whatever, you're trying to make a change or habit or whatever. Something I've just been doing recently for like the past 131 days, I know, is
Wow.
I actually do. It's called The Power List, and I heard about it from Andy Frisella. He has a podcast, the MF CEO. Anyway, so
I'm going to write that
the whole
down.
thing.
What was it? The MF CEO?
The MF CEO, because he is the motherfucking CEO.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's one of those things where it's almost, I almost didn't listen to it because of that. I don't care if people cuss, but just kind of like the whole thing of like, I don't know if I just want to listen to this dude if like that's the premise of it, but it's really
your
not.
Title,
Exactly. But there's really a whole lot more to it. That's actually like the smallest part of it. The point is, he's a big advocate of what he calls the power list, which is every day you get 5, okay? Not 3, but not 20. It's 5 things, and it's not a to-do list. They're critical tasks, right? Which are very similar, but also can be different, right? So out of those 5, maybe 2 or 3 of them are habits or personal habits you're trying to improve, right? Example, maybe it's like floss your teeth. Like I brush my teeth every day, but I only floss a week before going to the dentist, and I know that I really should right? So there are little things like that. Now you put those on there. Well, say after 21, 30 days when it's kind of second nature, you don't really think about it, then those things go off the list.
And they change.
Because it's just, and then you can add on the next kind of habit or whatever you're trying to do, right? So that's like one or 2 or 3 of those things. Then the other 2 or 3 of those 5 are related to business, whatever. But again, it's not like the little mundane to do. It's the critical tasks. Like, what can I do today that is going to move the business forward or move me forward, right? And then the whole key is, all right, it's only 5 things. The whole key is at the end of the day or the next morning, whenever you look at the list again, you cross them off as you do them. At the bottom of the list, you write a W if you did all 5, or you write an L if you didn't, right?
I don't want to take too many L's, so I'm going to make sure I get all those 5 things done.
Exactly. And it's funny because you're literally writing a letter on the page, like who gives a shit type thing. Well, you know who gives a shit? Probably you. Because
absolutely.
Knowing and it's funny how much it makes a difference. It's like my first 100 days, I went like 96 and 4. And I was fucking pissed. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I can't do 5 goddamn things. Like, what is going on? Like, and so it's like, all right, my goal is next 100 days. Like, I'm going 100 to 0. Like, I'm not going to take an L, you know.
And you're on what? Did you say 131 now or something?
I'm like 131.
That's
so
great,
I'm 31. I'm 31 or no so far the second 100 stretch. But
it's interesting what you say about those first kind of 2 or 3 things, which are sort of like the mundane things. I mean, I heard yesterday or the day before, very recently, that it takes about 26, I want to say 26, quite specific. It could have been 20 to 30 days of doing something you don't want to do before you get used to doing it and you no longer have to really think about doing it. And so, I need to do that with stretching. Because at the moment I'm prioritizing the business and training. And I leave the little things like stretching. So if I put that on the list as I just do 20 minutes when I'm at home, in a month's time, if I keep doing that, I can change it off the list and that's done. And that's my life slightly enhanced, slightly better, slightly more efficient. I like it a lot. I feel inspired, man. I'm gonna do this.
And I find from a personal standpoint, just doing the little personal things, because that's the thing too. If you have a business, you have things going on, or even if you're just an athlete, like you're training as a weightlifter, like there's a lot you got to get going on, a lot you got to do. Doing the little things in your personal life that you should but have been avoiding, that shit just wears on you, and that actually going to stop you from doing things in your business life, in your athletic life, you know. And it's funny. It's like, okay, we'll take flossing for example. It's like every time you go to brush your teeth, like. You open the drawer to get the toothpaste, and you see the fucking floss there.
And
in the back of your mind, even if it's not like a total thought every time, it's just like in the back of your mind, you're like, oh man, I should probably do that, but fuck it, and you don't. Right? And so how many times throughout the day is like something little happening that you just kind of blow off? Oh, it's no big deal. And maybe it's not a big deal grand scheme of things, but the habit of not doing little things that you don't want to do because it's quote not a big deal. Like that shit is bad for you.
I was gonna say like those 50 things in the day that you're kind of pretending that you're not seeing, those add up and they cause some kind of low level baseline stress. Like individually they're nothing, but actually if you did all of those little things. I remember hearing a talk from an ex-Navy SEAL. You may have heard it was like some motivational thing, and how he was saying, when you wake up, make your bed, and that's the first thing you do. That's one job accomplished, And that kind of spurs you on to do another and another and another. And it all starts with that. And if your whole day is a complete ruin, at the very least, you're going to come home and there's a nice made bed. And I quite like that. It's like, do the little things, you know?
Absolutely. And I think that kind of comes down that list of 5 things too. It's like, dude, if you crush it, say you write down 5 things and you just sit down and fucking hammer them all out in 2 hours.
Yeah.
What do you do the rest of the day? Well, I told you to the rest of the day. Whatever the fuck you want. You know what I mean? Like, maybe the rest of the day you move on to a bunch of other tasks and you get way more done. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe the rest of the day you're like, oh, cool, I got all that stuff done. Now I can, fill in the blank of the other things you've been wanting to do but haven't had time to.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And so that's something else that's really kind of cool about it, is there's this sense of accomplishment every day, if you get through those 5 things.
For sure. So, I mean, let's be real. You're saying how it might take 2 hours, but I don't want to give people the kind of misconception that you have built what you've built off 2 hours of work. I mean, we've never spoken about this, but I imagine, because I do so much listening to highly successful people, it's like it's an all-day grind for years on end. You kind of put your head down and you don't look up, and 5-10 years later you finally have something to show for, and it's 18 to 20 hour days sometimes. How has that kind of changed as you become more successful? I imagine maybe you've been able to, whether you become more efficient or you've taken your foot off the pedal, I don't know, but I mean, how has that kind of changed over the last 5 to, I don't know how long Caffeine Kilos has been around, probably 7 or 8 years now? How has your effort towards your daily life kind of changed?
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny. It's like when people would say, they're like, oh, yeah, when I quit teaching and full-time in Caffeine Kilos, and I have a gym as well. And so, like, oh, must be nice, kind of make your own schedule. I was like, yeah, man, it is. You can work whatever 18 hours out of the day you want,
Yeah, that's all the schedule you have.
Yeah, it's up to you. Make your own schedule, and then really, truthfully, it's like 16 because,
of course.
you got sleep, and prioritize that.
But you got to look after your family and stuff, but
But, it's true. And what happens really is that when you're driven and you have something you're trying to accomplish or something you're trying to do, it's not, it doesn't feel like work.
No.
You know what I mean? It doesn't always feel like work. And so that's why I don't really like it when people talk about being so busy. It's like, dude, I feel like, oh man, I know you're busy. It's like, well, yeah, but
I chose
what is that really?
Yeah.
Who gets? Everyone's got shit going on.
Yeah, you're in control of what you do. You choose to be busy.
Exactly. Exactly. That shit's a choice. You all have, whatever. So I will say though that what happens is I look up and yesterday someone asked me about going snowboarding, and I mentioned earlier how my dad used to take me skiing, and all through high school and college I used to go up all the time. Right now, I think it's been 5 years, or maybe realistically probably 3 to 4 years since I've gone. Man, I used to have a season pass. I used to go up, at least once, a lot of times 2 times a week, every single week without fail, all that. Now it's been 3 or 4 years,
Wow.
Yeah, I got some kids, and that definitely has an impact on that, but it doesn't matter. It'd be I could be gone for a day. That would be I'm gone for a day all the time.
Everything would be
work
okay.
Stuff, Yeah, exactly. But it's just the whole thing is, does it sound like fun going? Yeah. Would I like to go? Sure. But you know what? When I really think about it and think about scheduling it out, there's just so much other stuff I would rather do.
Yeah.
It's like, do I want to go snowboarding on Sunday? It's like, it sounds good, but when I really think about it, it's like, actually, no, man. There's so much other shit that I would rather do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And so same thing with it's like hanging out with friends and partying and stuff,
Yeah.
And I'm not, friends are important. They really are. And it's important to have connections and that type of thing. But what friends and how often, what are you doing? If you're going over to Johnny's house and getting shmeemed twice a week, that's going to take a significant amount of your time,
Shmeemed is not a word that has ever reached the UK before. I just want to let you know. That is the first time. That is fantastic.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
And so, the more you know. So, that's just kind of the thing. So it is a work, and it is like a constant, whatever you want to call it, grind or things going on. Yeah. But what really happens, and it's actually, I think it's really good for people for a lot of reasons, is what it does is it forces you to focus on the things in life that are important, and the things in life that maybe aren't important or maybe aren't really good for people in general or whatever, just kind of fade away.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying I never, hang out with people or go to parties. It's just different. What it is now is it's like 2 or 3 times a year, myself and my wife and a few other couples go to whatever, this winery that we're members of, whatever, and kind of do that whole thing. It's not a 3 times a week over at your buddy's house type deal. And it's maybe part of it's having kids and getting older, but I don't know, because lots of people work regular jobs and kind of still just do the same thing, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that having your own business and having a higher level or a feeling of a higher level of responsibility just kind of force you to make better life choices.
Yeah. I think, the fact that you're talking like this and you're talking about how much you love doing what you're doing, it's amazing that you've been able to turn, a passion into a living. And I'm kind of interested, not only for me, this is kind of a selfish question, I suppose, but for people listening, because, everyone wants to turn what they love into something that sustains them. What advice do you have?
Everyone says they do.
Well, exactly. So this is what I'm leading towards, is what kind of advice do you have for those people who want to make a living out of what they do, perhaps don't realize the crazy dedicated focus that you've got to have, this one-track mind towards building this thing? What are your sort of piece of advice for people like that?
Well, honestly, it's kind of funny, but the truth is, and it sounds like corny whatever, but like you just got to do it. Like you just got to take the first step.
Yeah.
And I actually just talking about books. I just read this book, the War of Art. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
And so, it's primarily about artists and stuff. It all relates to business and really lots of things in life. But it's like, it's funny, like all these business books, I could give you a summary of the book just by telling you the title. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway.
It's so true. Like, I listened to one the other day. You probably know it, and it's called Jab, 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 Right Hook.
Right.
And you hear that, and you're like, okay, so give, ask. You know what it means straight away.
The obstacle is the way. Want to guess what that book's about?
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, great book, but I'm just, it's kind of funny. So anyway, the War of Art, like basically the entire thing is it presents you as the individual against resistance, right? And it's just just talks about, and it totally makes sense when you're reading. You're like, yes, all of this is absolutely true. Like it's basically the entire book is like, stop procrastinating. If you want to do something, do it. Like don't be scared. If you want to do something, do it. And maybe that's it. Maybe it's like a fear that holds people back, or maybe it's that they don't really want to do it. Like maybe the idea of doing something like that sounds really good, and maybe you're not even afraid of hard work. But you know what? Maybe what you got going on now you actually like. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with working like a 9 to 5. Or like I said, I was a teacher for 8 years. Like I fucking loved it. I loved every single day.
Yeah. I live with a teacher, and she I live with my girlfriend and another couple, and this other couple, there's a girl there, and she's a teacher, and she is so fulfilled doing what she does, teaching young kids. She just loves it, and it's such a commendable job, and she's doing an amazing thing. She's working hard. Like growing up, probably she wasn't thinking like being a teacher is all I want to do, but now she's doing it. She realizes how amazing it is.
That's it. And it's teaching PE too. So there's like that whole health is what I was passionate about. It's still involved in what I was doing, and coaching wrestling, and dude, it was like honestly, it was I was living it up, man. You know what I mean? Like I still had a gym on the side, but it was kind of more of just like on a side hobby type thing. Had that going, and I'm not saying I don't like what I do now. I love what I do now too. It just came to a point where there's only so much time in the day, and Caffeine Kilos was growing, and so you make your choices, and I do not regret my decision at all. Just the point is that I did not feel unfulfilled doing something else, whatever. So the point is that if some people are maybe have the so-called dream or really want to do something, but if they're not, like they keep procrastinating and putting it off, maybe, now just maybe, it's because they don't really want to do it.
They don't really
you know what I mean? Like it's the idea sounds good, but when they really think about it and they really think about the work involved, like what's really great about being a teacher, it's like 3 o'clock when school's out, you're done. Like that's great. Like if you're not coaching sports or whatever. And like that's fine. You could get off at 3 o'clock on Friday, and you could head up the mountains. You could snowboard all weekend.
Amazing.
That sounds awesome. Like there's nothing wrong with that. So anyway, the advice would just be like, if it's something you really want to do, just take the first step. That's it. You just do the first thing.
Yeah.
You know, the first thing is not getting a business license. The first thing is not getting business cards.
No.
The first thing is not like any of that shit. Like the first thing, like someone asked me yesterday, they said, "Hey, I want to start a gym. Like what do I do? What's the thing?" I said, "You want to start a gym?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Get a fucking client."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's it. Find one person who's
like
going to give you money to train them.
Yeah, you need you need the four walls and a roof, but more importantly, you need someone who actually wants to come to the gym.
Yeah, well, let me tell you this. Here's another thing. Fuck the four walls and a roof. You know how many people train people out of the parks in my boot camp class or whatever? Like number one, like if you do not have one client, then there's nothing. Like that's it.
I started doing just that when sort of in between when I was studying at university in the summer holidays and I went back home. I would do that. There would be older people, and I didn't have a gym. I just take them to the park, and we just work out there.
Dude, go to their house. Or, you know what? Like, it's so funny, too. It's like you could do with, okay, you really want to get some equipment. Something's like, all right, I'll tell you what. Go buy 2 pairs of dumbbells, one that's 15 pounds and one that's 30 pounds, and then have that motherfucker come to your garage. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. Like, that's all you need. Yeah. But it's like, should you have insurance? Well, yeah. But, like, what do you have insurance for if you have 0 clients?
Yeah.
Like, that's not, you know.
Why are you on the Rogue website if you don't, you know, you haven't even got the money yet to open the gym and you're looking at the top of the market equipment? It's just, yeah.
And you just nailed it too. And you said like, looking at the top of line equipment, whatever. That's another thing, is another excuse a lot of times. Like, well, I don't have any money for it.
And you become paralyzed. You become paralyzed because you can't. How can you start if the first thing you're looking at is that you need to start with the small little things. You know, it's not these big. You're so right.
I'll do this when. I'll do that when. You're not doing shit. You know what I mean? Like, you should be, and it'd be great. It'd be great if you would. You know what I mean? Yeah, but the thing is, like, all those excuses, they're just excuses. And I think it's funny. I think some people really are. It's almost like a scared to succeed. Like, it's like, well, what if it's flooded and I get way too many people? Yeah. It's like, you work that out. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what you do. Yeah. But it's like, you don't need money to start. Like, none of my businesses had any sort of funding to start. Everything's been 100% bootstrapped, you know? And it's with Caffeine Kilos, we held a competition, and then we used the proceeds from that competition to help launch the company. It was basically a giant launch party.
So how did that work? Can you kind of go into detail with that?
Yeah, so it was funny. So a buddy of mine, or someone actually I kind of barely knew, to be honest, just kind of called me one day, and he's like, "Hey, man, I want to host this big competition, this whole thing." So we started kind of talking about it a little more. I don't even know why he decided to call me. He just kind of knew of me. I think he had to call someone else to get my number. It was like this whole thing. Anyway, and so he said, "Yeah, man, that'd be great. Like in weightlifting, there's really no money. It'd be really cool if we hold a competition and give cash prizes to weightlifters. What a crazy idea." And so we said, okay, well, how are we going to fund that cash prize? It's like, okay, well, you know what? Let's hold a CrossFit style competition throughout the day. We can get a bunch of teams out. It'll be a good community event. People can pay entrance fees. The entrance fees can cover the venue and, you know, any equipment we need. And we get sponsors and we'll get sponsors to pay the prize for the weightlifting and all that. So then just from that idea, we went and looked at some venues. Right? Just kind of like, all right, well, what would be the first thing? Yeah. Well, we can't really, get anybody to sign up if we don't even know where it's going to be, you know? Yep. And so we go to look at venues and we go to one, we say, oh man, this place would be perfect. This place is great. Right. Yeah. And it was like $7,000. And so we go, all right. And so I said, well, what it is, I said, okay, well, here's the thing. How many teams do we need to sign up to make sure we get that $7,000?
Oh, you kind of worked it from the top down. You backtracked. What do I need to make this? Yeah.
Yeah. So say we charge $300 a team, whatever, you know, we're going to need like 25 teams and that's covered. Oh, well, shit, we can definitely get 25 teams. We think about like and we got whatever, like 3 months to do that. Like that's no problem, right? Like we have so many connections in the area and people that don't want to do it and all this stuff, right? So then I got out my credit card, you know, without talking to my wife. Yeah. And I charged because I knew like, honestly, like it wasn't a risk. Like I didn't even think of it as a risk. It's like there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to get 25 teams. Like that's going to be this is like the easiest, like whatever. Like I said, it's basically
and you know
risk
what?
free.
If you want motivation, that right there will give you the motivation to pull something off. As soon as $7,000 leaves your bank account, and it's on you to get that money back, you'll find a way to make it work. I mean, I had that. Like I've just started manufacturing barbells, and I've just purchased my first batch of them, and that money's out of my account, and now it's like there is no way I'm not going to sell these bars. You know,
dude,
that's the motivation you need. Is you go all in, and then what are you going to do? Just sit down and just let it fail? No, you're gonna find a way. Whether it's 18-hour days or however you do it, you're going to make that work. You know.
Let me give you another example of that. That's actually even less extreme, right? Because maybe someone thinks they don't have the stomach for that type or whatever, right? Which again, if you pre-plan and think about it ahead of time, like what do you mean you have a stomach? Like I said, like there was 0 chance this doesn't work, or there's like a 1% chance it doesn't all work out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then of course it turned into something much bigger. But same thing as like it's just setting larger goals and that type of thing, right? So in my gym, we're talking about growth and that type of thing, and just talking about bigger goals. So whatever you think a good goal would be, you should probably triple that at least, right? And that's your new goal. Wow. And that's what you're really going for. So we're doing like beginning of the year, we do this transformation challenge, you know, where people do like a little nutrition clinic and some stuff like that, and get some members to really get excited about it, right? So what do we think would be good? Like how many people?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, if we got like 20 to 30 people, like that'd be pretty dope.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So then Bud goes, my business partner who I just been telling him about we got to set bigger goals and all this bullshit. Right? Like I'm trying to pump him up. And so I go, 20, 30 be good. He goes, okay, so what are we looking at? Like 50 then? I said, yeah, I guess. I guess that means the goal is 50. Yeah. And he looks at me and he goes, 75. I was like, fuck. All right. And this is mostly pulling from our membership. And we have like, 250 members about.
Yeah.
But it's like 75. So we're talking like, 25% of membership, over 30, 35%.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I go, all right, 75 it is. Okay. Yeah. Now, this is where that story kind of goes around to, is that what happens is we started doing things to get people in this challenge that I've never even considered doing before. And not because they're bad or anything. It was just like, for example, we've got 10 days till it starts, and we've got 40 people or 42 people, right? And I'm like, well, shit, that's like we're barely halfway there, you know?
Yeah.
And so, whereas before, if we did set the goal at, say, 30 people or even 50 people,
you'd be chilling at that point. Yeah.
We're sitting 40 people 7 to 10 days out. I'm like, hell yeah.
Working.
Like, we'll get another 8 to 10 probably or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
But instead, I'm like, oh shit, well, I know that personal touch helps. I know that everybody I've talked to one-on-one, nobody said like, how dare you, motherfucker. Everyone said like, oh man, yes. In fact, I have been thinking about it. I just kind of wasn't sure. You know what? I think I'm going to do it. And like, so you're encouraging somebody to do this thing that's going to make a positive change in their life. Like what's holding you back? And so what I did is I told Bud, I was like, hey, check it out. This is what we're doing. This is what I'm doing. You're going to do it too. This is what we're doing is, I'm going to text 5 people personally every single day, and you're going to do the same. Okay. So if the 2 of us personally text, and it's like before I'd be like, well, I don't have their phone numbers. Well, you know where the phone numbers are? In the gym system.
Yeah.
You know, it's like bullshit. You have a phone number for every single person at your gym, but you know what? I never saw that before, thought of that before, because it wasn't necessary, right? Like my brain didn't even like recognize that that's something that could happen. Not because I'm smarter now than then. It's just because it wasn't necessary to me. It wasn't a part of my life that I thought was necessary to pay attention to, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's like, there we go. So I thought of, okay, well, who are 5 people that are not signed up yet that were in the last class I taught there, or who do I know that goes to the gym that it could benefit from this, whatever, and just shoot them a text. Hey, what's up? Just have you thought about doing it? You know, I know that whatever, this type of motivation, or then you talk about something about them personally. Like I know that you've been around for a couple years, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And again, out of that, 3 out of those 5 every time, oh man, I haven't thinking about it. I just kind of needed some, just a little push. I really appreciate that. Like, boom, sign up right then and there.
Yeah.
And then the end of the day, we end up with like 63 people. Okay.
Yeah.
63 people. So we failed our goal of 75. Well, bullshit. The original goal was fucking 20.
Exactly.
We did triple the original goal.
Yeah.
And so that whole thing, I think there's like a greater lesson in there that's like you're saying, like, you got to put yourself on the hook, and maybe it's like actually monetarily, maybe you just have to set a goal that's 3 times bigger, you know what I mean? At least than you thought you should.
Yeah.
And then you start doing things that you would have never done before because it matters more.
You know, it reminds me of what John Bros says about, shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you'll end up on in the stars. It's like, shoot for a goal that's ridiculous. Shoot for something that you almost you can't even conceive might be possible, and just go for it. And just go for it. You probably, you probably won't make it, but you're going to end up further than you would have if you hadn't shot for that. And it kind of reminds me of a story of you're saying about how you texted these people. And I think sometimes in this day and age, people get so consumed by how easy it is to message people via social media that they forget how it used to be done. It used to be a door-to-door thing. And when I first met Glenn Pendlay, I thought, well, he's a good contact to have. I'm going to make sure that I can have a good relationship with him. So I said to him, all right, you're coming to the UK and I'm going to set up a tour for you. And he said, okay. So I individually emailed about 200 gyms. And it took hours. And I made sure that I had a good message for each gym. And people forget that they look for a mailing list and they want to just send out a blanket email. And sometimes actually when you're not yet a Caffeine Kilos player and you're not owning Hook Grip or whatever, you've got to do these kind of nitty gritty things that people don't want to spend the time doing. And it's the old school way. It's going door to door. It's texting people individually. You can't always just put out a blanket message to everyone. And that's kind of what you saw with that whole thing with the nutrition seminars. You just had to message people, and you had to genuinely interact with individual people, and that's what made the difference.
And things that seem ridiculous, like, it's part of my list of 5 things to do right now is every single day I comment on 30 people's videos or pictures on Instagram. Yeah. Okay, and I do not do a generic comment because I get that all the time. It pisses me off. What I do is I actually watch their video or actually look at their photo, and then I reply something or I comment something about it, right? Like maybe it's something like, hey man, looks smooth, if it's like a snatch and it looks really smooth, or like, oh man, great speed, if it looks like they're moving fast or whatever, right? So it doesn't have to be this 3-sentence long thing, but you know what it is? It's something that's authentic that like real. Shows that I actually watched the video. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's that whole thing of it's actual communication, not just blanket statements or generic statements,
Yeah, it's cool that you do that. I do the exact same thing, and I love it. And I've developed there's a bunch of people who I will now get DMs from, and we'll talk about weightlifting. But I just when I see people lift on Instagram, if I don't know who they are, I'll just watch a video and I'll just message and I'll just say dude, you look good, or like nice lift, or good luck for junior nationals, or whatever it may be.
Right. And then it's funny, you start seeing the same people and you're like, oh, this guy's getting a little better. Yeah. And so it's then I would comment that like, hey man, looks like you're really getting better. Like your lockout is so much stronger in your snatch, or whatever, And so it's like the whole thing of 30. I'm like, man, if you'd have told me like, oh, you're going to comment on watch 30 videos and comment, it's like, fucking when am I doing that? It's like, well, I'll tell you when, like, instead of browsing through your feed, like, that's just what you do. Like, that's what I use Instagram for now. You know what I mean? It's not just to consume things. It's actually to talk to people.
Yeah, I do it when I'm doing my jobs and I get bored and I just can't focus anymore on what I'm doing. I'll just sit back and take 5 or 10 minutes and just go through Instagram and just reply to every message on my videos that I put up. I'll reply to everyone's comments. I'll talk to people in the newsfeed, and it's great. It's just a fun way to get to know the community a little bit more.
Hey man, you're sitting on the toilet, you got your phone out because that's what 95% of people do, even though people don't like to talk about it.
For sure.
Instead of scrolling through your feed or scrolling through the Explore feed looking for the latest Fitspo, whatever, you could actually search a hashtag involving weightlifting, look through those posts, and make some connections with people.
That's one of my new favorite things about Instagram is the fact that they've developed that, is that you can follow a hashtag. I follow like weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting, Oli lifting, and then you just get a stream of people that you've never followed before. And also to everyone listening, now you know if you ever get a message from Danny or me, I guess, we're probably sat in the toilet. Just so you know, just like Danny said, that's what's happening at that moment when you receive that message.
Well, but that won't bother them because they're going to be sitting on the toilet looking at their phone when it happens. Well, the other thing is
this weird toilet conversation going on.
You know what else is going on if you get a message from one of us? You know that we actually watched your fucking video. You know what I mean? Like that thing. Like I will never comment on something I'll never have a bot that does that, or I'll never comment on something that I didn't actually watch. You know what I mean? Like that's bullshit.
Yeah, so getting those generic messages. I posted a video of Harrison Maris the other day, clean and jerking 195, and someone messaged me saying, "Great lift, man, congrats." And I'm just like, you were just commenting this same thing when everyone's like it's obviously not me. We all know it's not me. I'm posting an amazing lift that someone else has done.
Right.
And you get these ones like
Harrison is so impressive.
And it's like peep my profile or message me to become a whatever. It's just like you're just sending the same message to hundreds of people, and it's awful. It's just not the way to do it. Yeah.
And it's funny, kind of getting back to like the setting high goals, the whole shoot for the moon type thing. It's funny. It's like when I think about it too, it's lessons that earlier in my life they were there, and I maybe I should have paid closer attention, or maybe I didn't take that out of it. But it's like when I first started training at California Strength, right? And Glenn Penley was the coach out there, and that was like a fun team. It was like John North and Donnie Shankel.
I'm glad you're going into this, because this is something that I wanted to bring up as well. So I'm glad you're kind of moving on to this. Yeah.
So when I first started training there, it's like when you're lifting at California Strength, like you're just expected to do well. I always hear people talking about trying to qualify for the American Open, trying to qualify for Nationals, which is great. Like that's a great goal. Like everyone needs to start somewhere for sure. But when you go to California Strength, the thought is not I need to qualify for Nationals.
No.
The thought is I need to score team points at Nationals.
Yeah. The thought is
it's an entirely different thing.
I need to win Nationals so that I can go to Worlds, so that I can win.
Yeah.
It's like it's a step in the process. It's not.
You're sharing a platform. You're in team practice, and there's 10 people all lifting, and out of those 10 people lifting, 9 of them are going to Nationals. So like that's just expected.
Yeah.
Like it's not, it's like, and don't everyone starts somewhere, and that's great. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to demean that by any. I mean, some people like lifting at whatever the American Open is going to be the highlight of their weightlifting career, and that's fantastic.
Yeah,
I don't mean to diminish that at all.
No.
I'm just saying that this is how it went for me. So I go in there, and John North looks at me and he says, "Okay," and I'd done literally like 3 weightlifting meets over the course like 3 months.
And he coached you, right? Was he your first coach?
Yeah, so I went to actually a Penley seminar because I'm like 45 minutes to an hour from Cal Strength.
The people's coach. Interesting.
Yeah, and so I thought, I'll swing by, it'll be good, whatever, Yeah. And so I want to learn, want to get better. I've done 3 meets over the course of 3 months. I'm still just kind of a CrossFitter, but thought I want to get better. So I go out there. And then they're kind of watching. Then some of the guys on the team were like, "Hey, man, like I think you really have a lot of potential. Like you should consider like training with us out here, just whatever." And part of it was selling because John like sold me a little personal training package. Yeah. But I was like, "Well, yeah, it's good. Like come out here and learn. Like I need someone to help me out, whatever." And so I drove out there once a week. Like it's an hour, like I said, each way. I drove out like once a week on Sundays, and I just basically spent my Sundays with John for over the course like 10 weeks or so. Well, then and then training on my own the rest of the time. After those 10 times, it was kind of like, hey, like, why don't you just start training with the team now? Basically kind of how it was approached, right?
Oh, that's cool.
The point of all that is I'm out there, and he sits down like our first day after he watches me lift a little more. And again, my numbers were not very good. You know what I mean? Like I don't even know. I was snatching like 100 kilos and clean and jerking 130 or 140 or something. Right? But as a 94, and not that that's terrible, but like weightlifting. So but just seeing the potential. Anyway, he just said, you know what, you have a ton of potential. He goes, this is what we're going to do, okay? And so he goes, you're going to qualify for the American Open, which is in December, okay? And this is like March, so in like 7 months you're going to qualify for an American Open, and then you're going to go and we're just going to lift and have fun. Then you're going to qualify for Nationals, and you're going to go to Nationals and just lift and have fun. Then we're going to go back to the American Open, and you're going to medal. Then we're going to go back to Nationals, and you're going to medal. And that was it. Like that was the plan. Like,
I just said it so nonchalantly. Like this is the plan. This is what we do. Yeah.
It's like, so you're telling me 7 months from now I'm going to lift on the national stage. And then another 6 months after that I'm going to lift national championships. And then a year from that point I'm going to be medal. Right. So that was like the plan that was set out for me. And I'm like, all right. But it wasn't you're nuts. I was like, okay, well that's what you think I could do, and that's what we're doing. And I'm looking at all these people lifting, and the national champ just told me that, so he knows something about this. Whatever.
And you've seen everyone else do it, so like, well, why can't I?
That's it. It's like, exactly. There's 7 people on the team, or whatever, 5 people on the team that snatch over 150. Like, of course, like why shouldn't I be snatching 145 or 142? You know what I mean?
You
like,
snatch now. You've lifted a lot. I see you like. It's like every single video you're in, you're snatching at least like 125, 130, and I know you've lifted more in the past. What are your numbers out of interest? It's sort of 40, 70-ish?
143, 175.
Damn.
I've cleaned 180, but I haven't jerked anything over 175 or so.
Strong.
So, yeah. And so So anyway, it was funny. So this plan was set out. Well, it didn't completely come to fruition, but what happened, I qualified American Open. I lifted, had fun.
Yeah.
I qualified at Nationals, did that whole thing, go back to American Open, place 5th, right? So not a medal,
bad.
but 5th.
Yeah.
And then go to the Nationals and play 7th.
Nice.
And so again, not a medal, but you go from, snatching 100 kilos
to coming and then, 7th at Nationals. Yeah.
And it was 100% just because the environment you're in and just what's expected. Like, here are the expectations. Go get it. You know what I mean? And never once did I think like, oh, this is impossible. The entire time it's like, all right, well, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're
at a good point in the story of you being at Cal Strength to kind of work out, when was it that you decided, because as you said, I didn't realize this, but you were teaching at the same time as Caffeine Kilos had begun. But when was it at Cal Strength that you thought, I'm going to sell coffee to weightlifters? Like, how does that happen? How do you have the audacity to think in a sport that's dying? You didn't know it was really like on the up and coming at the time. Like,
no.
How do you go from that to think, I'm going to make a living selling coffee to weightlifters?
Well, like I kind of mentioned earlier, it was like at that big competition we held. Like, that was it. It wasn't even at that point. It wasn't even the plan. It was like, let's just do this competition as an excuse to pay weightlifters. We'll get the best lifters in the country to come out. We'll give a cash prize. And I said, okay, we're doing that. And then we go, man, well, at this event, like, we're going to need to sell T-shirts. You know what I mean? And basically, at the heart of it, like, we're just some bros that like lifting weights and drinking coffee.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I mean?
awesome. Yeah.
And so we said, everyone we know that kind of lifts weights and everything, like, coffee is a big part of that. Or caffeine is the most number one proven ergogenic aid.
Yeah.
And so all this stuff. And so we said, you know what? Like, let's make some shirts. We can sell them at the event, and like, people really. Then we got the design and people just fucking loved it. And so then we kind of actually started selling them a little bit before the event. And then with the coffee, we said, hey, should we make our own coffee? Yeah, let's do it. You know what I mean? So, okay,
awesome.
Well, let's go on Google and look up some local roasters. And so contact a bunch of people and we find somebody who's likes the idea, likes the project, and is fully behind it. And so it just kind of went from there. It was 100%. It was one of those things where it's just, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step?
It's just one of the greatest stories. I love how at the moment you have so many companies who they call themselves lifestyle brands, and yours is probably the most genuine and lifestyle brand. Where the lifestyle is, we like to lift weights, we like to get hyped and drink coffee and lift weights, and I'm going to spread this lifestyle around the world. And it's just it's just works so well.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, look, I like lifting weights, drink coffee. You like lifting weights, drink coffee. Like, everybody, it's like there's a lot of people who just really like, get hyped.
I love to do that, and I want people who also do that to know that I do. So, like right now, I'm sat here wearing my black Caffeine Kilos T-shirt.
Yeah.
I've got 3 others in my room, and like I'm probably going to get another one just because that's what I do. Like, I drink coffee and I lift weights like all day, every day. So, I'd rather have that on my top than like a Ralph Lauren, Calvin Klein thing, it's who I am.
It's funny you say like a Ralph Lauren, Calvin Klein, because that was part of the thing too. Is at that time a lot of the shirts in the fitness industry were just like they just had these douchebag sayings on it. You know what I mean? God, yeah. It was all about like it was all like these puns about snatching and whatever, right? Which, hey, whatever. Like, I don't care. Like, if that's what you like, that's great too. Yeah. But it's like, okay, say I got that shirt, I could maybe wear it to the gym because everyone would get it. But then, like, I'm not going to wear that to my niece's birthday party or, whatever.
I wear this T-shirt out. Like, I'll wear this anytime,
Yeah.
And that funny quote, it's funny, like, once, maybe twice, and then it's not funny anymore.
Exactly. It's like kind of like the whole thing. And so we said, okay, well, if we're going to make some shirts, like, I want something that we could actually wear and, like, want to wear out.
Yeah.
And so really where the apparel comes from is it's just, again, it was 100% authentic. It was like we wanted something that wasn't really out there. It's like, I want just a nice shirt that I can wear out to dinner. I could wear whatever. And so really essentially what we are in that regards is it's a streetwear apparel brand that's just in the fitness industry. You know what I mean? We almost don't even look at it like a fitness apparel. It's more of just like nice streetwear apparel that is in the fit. But then of course with that, because we work out, like I know the shirts that fit me well. You know what I mean? Dean does, my business partner, Dean Sidoris. He does all our designs. He's just cool. Like he knows what's cool. It's like that type of thing.
I see him in videos like skateboarding and then he'll just casually snatch like 100 kilos. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's about how it goes. Yeah. And so, he just, So he just knows what's cool and what looks good and stuff. So we just make stuff that we actually would wear and want to wear and that type of thing.
That's what
and
you've
so
got
that's
to do,
what it
isn't
all.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's the whole thing about being authentic. But it's so true. It's like, but that's what we like, and that's cool. So we're gonna get an audience that people like that. That doesn't mean it's the only way, dude. If you're really into kitschy shirts that talk about your grandma's snatch or whatever, you know what? There's people that like that too. And if that's what you really are into and you really think that's funny, then do that.
That's
like,
the
that's
thing.
great.
Like, there are a lot of people who are going to be like you. And if you like it, chances are, and it's not already invented, chances are other people would like it too.
Hey, Seb, what's your favorite color?
Maroon.
Maroon. There we
maroon.
go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You ask people what their favorite colors are, you're going to get red, blue, green, maroon. You know what you're not going to get? You're not going to get very many hands raised for periwinkle. Or hands raised for fuchsia, you know what I mean? But I'll tell you what, the people that do, they're going to latch on to the other people that have that. So it's like there's a breadth and a depth component. Like if it is something that is a little more niche, then you're going to get then the people who have that same thing, you're going to have a deeper connection.
Yeah.
If it's something that's a little more broad, then you may not have quite as deep a connection, but there's a whole lot more people that are interested in it. And like neither one of those things is bad or better or worse, you know? But what is important about it is that you do what you actually fucking like and not what you think other people will like.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, this is kind of interesting that they always say what imitation is the highest form of flattery. And since Caffeine and Kilos, I mean, how many brands have we seen now that are something and something? There's like Barbells and Brews, or like I can't even think what they're called. I know that Nat from Hook Grip did like a spoof one, didn't he? Like what was it? Gluten and Gains or something. He did that as like a joke one, which is pretty funny. But like people are generally trying to piggyback off the Caffeine and Kilos brand, and no one's going to do a good enough job because you did it, because you were authentic. It was you. It wasn't a copy.
And and Nat's funny. Nat's actually a good friend of ours. You know what I mean?
It's
he's like that's great. And and that's the thing too is, and it doesn't bother us. Like it doesn't. I don't get mad when someone does that. It's like, dude, if that's what you're into and you really like it, like do it. Like more power to you. Like hopefully it works out great. You know? And I think like the last thing I'm worried about is what someone else is doing. Like I'm just trying to be better at the things we do. You know?
Yeah, for sure. You know. It's interesting that you were a teacher and then you decided I'm going to go forward and do this. Have you always been entrepreneurial? Like, have you always, as a child, have you always been trying to, sell things to people, or you have? See, this is stuff that I love. I love this kind of thing. I love stories, that people have when they were young that kind of show how they turned into who they are today.
So my parents had a business when I was a kid, but my grandfather started it. So my grandfather started a couple companies and ran a couple companies, and it was like air conditioning business and that type of stuff. So he did that for a long time until he retired. And so he had a bunch of buildings in town and that type of thing. And so I always kind of liked working and liked helping out, liked doing that. Yeah. But I saw some things. Like I saw that he they had these buildings, and so I'm staying with them, and these checks are showing up in the mail. Yeah. These lease checks for the buildings they're owning. And I'm just thinking like, that's interesting. That would be nice for someone just to send you money every month. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, obviously there's work that goes into it. And I saw that side too. When he needed a laborer, he would call me up, and it was some crazy shit. I was like 8 years old, standing at the top of this ladder, like working a sawzall overhead, like things that should not like scared out of my mind.
Things you can't do now. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like shouldn't. Yeah. But the point is, like you see the work that goes into it, and you see the whole idea of it, and you see all that. And so growing up, business always interested me. Like the whole idea of, solve someone's problem. Like here's business school in 2 sentences, right? Like solve someone's problem, buy for one, sell for two. You know what I mean? Like there you go. Yeah, like you're good to go now.
Provide value to someone. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I always saw that stuff, and I just saw how he did that. And like, I don't think they didn't have a retirement. They didn't have like a 401k or whatever, but what they had is they had, a dozen properties around town, and so there's your retirement. It's like, oh, the economy tanks. Okay, no problem. Sell them. You know what I mean? Like there's that value there. So just kind of seeing a different way to do things and a different way to kind of, make things happen. So I was always interested in that,
Yeah, of course. I do want to say.
I've only got a few more minutes here.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say was I wanted to say that I can do these conversations for hours, but I always know that people have things to do, and we've been going for nearly an hour. So if you need to go now or in 2 minutes, that's absolutely fine.
I got about 1 more minute. Today's my daughter's birthday, so I want to be in there when she wakes up.
In which case, I'm not going to hold you any longer.
We're good.
I have had such a fantastic time talking to you. I'm going to say that I'd love to have you on again if you ever fancy it, because there are so many things that I want to go into, which I haven't even had time to because we've had such an interesting, in-depth chat. But Danny, before you go, where can people find you? What can people do to kind of to help in any way?
Absolutely, yeah. So, caffeineandkilos.com, all spelled out, caffeine and kilos.
Yeah.
That's the website. We have blogs up. We also, if you're in a podcast, check out the podcast Gas Station Cappuccino.
Yeah, great name, by the way. When I first saw it come out a month or so ago, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun. It's me and my business partner at Caffeine and Kilos, kind of talking about mostly nonsense, but also we actually just recently interviewed a UFC fighter and stuff like this. We got some stuff coming up there.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then me personally, it's you can go DannyLehr.com or at Danny_Lehr on Instagram. So there it is.
Now, one final thing before you leave. You said you had an MMA fighter come on. Just a quick yes and no. Is that is that kind of showing your intentions for future work with Caffeine and Kilos at all?
Maybe. You know, I mean, we definitely have an audience in that realm.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely something we're open to. Not necessarily a totally targeted right now, but that is something we are definitely interested in. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, thanks once again for coming on. Make sure you get inside and spend your day with your daughter on her birthday, and have a great day with your family. Guys, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you again next week.